Hello, as the title of this video suggests, there is a white elephant in the room. In case you don't know what that means, there's a subject that might be uncomfortable or you're putting off discussing for one reason or another. In this case, I don't think it's necessarily an uncomfortable subject for most people interested in movie reviews about Cinderella and Cinderella related material. It is for me just because it's not a movie I'm actually interested in talking about a lot, so hopefully this video will be a little shorter than usual. Which would fit, because it'd be ridiculous if I talked for even half the runtime of this movie. But let's not digress. The movie I'm referring to is the Disney animated film Cinderella, and the reason why I can't put off talking about it any longer is because I will be talking about it in the Disney trials, and I didn't think it'd be very fair to do the Disney animated movie trials with Cinderella being in that and not actually do a proper review of the movie. So I'd started to do this review before, but then I didn't really like how that video turned out, so I'm redoing it tonight. I watched Cinderella, the Disney animated film, when I was 4.5 years old. It's the first Cinderella movie I saw. I think that's the case for a lot of people, not necessarily the exact age, but just that's the first Cinderella movie they saw. For a lot of people, that's kind of the standard of a Cinderella film. There's also a lot of books from Disney with their particular version of Cinderella in it. And so for a lot of people, that's kind of the standard for Cinderella. They're more familiar with the Disney material, whether it's the books, the toys, their animated film, or now their live action film, which is mostly based off of their animated film. And so that's going to be like another white elephant, getting to their live action, but it's not on my schedule right now, and at the moment I don't have any plans of squeezing it in there as a bonus feature just yet. But if somebody requests it, I'll get to it. I'll do it for one of my quarterly viewer requests. So anyway, but to the topic at hand. The Disney animated film does not have a very long run time, and yet quite a bit of it is padding. And that might not be so bad, except for they completely ignore most character development. There's not really much arcs going on there. The mice have most of the stories and take a lot of the action, which wouldn't be bad if it was interesting, but again, most of that is just silly cartoon. It's not really full character growth and interesting things. They have sound effects. It's actually the sound of like Goofy when he's yelling or has an accident. I think it's Lucifer the cat of all characters makes that sound, which is really weird and out of place. Another problem I had with this movie was there's certain things that is inconsistent in the scene where the mice are getting the pearls and the sash. The number of beads, of course, keep changing. The location of certain things. I think even like the color of the sash changes at one time. There's just a lot of little details there that like Disney is a lot better about being consistent with, that was not very well done in this particular movie. Another problem is the Prince character. Not only does he not have a name in this film, but he really doesn't speak. Like, he kind of, oh, hi, sort of thing at the ball scene. And no, I take that back. He doesn't even say hi. He just says, wait, and calls out to Cinderella when she's leaving the ball. So we see the prince. He's there. He's awestruck by Cinderella. They dance. And then when she leaves, that's his only line in the whole movie. And then at the end, they get married. Again, he doesn't say anything. His father, the king, has a lot more going on in the story. And the thing is, he's not a likable character. he's very angry. He is not somebody I would want as a father-in-law. They kind of try to portray him almost sympathetically because his sob story is he wants grandchildren and he's just impatient to see that happening. But he's so impatient that he's violent to his closest confidant and the person scheming and helping him to get his son married. And he just has this horrible temperament and he doesn't listen to people and he's just not a very nice character at all. In some ways, he's scarier than the stepmother in this movie. The stepmother is cold and calculating, and she is the more memorable character of all the characters in this movie because of that. While the stepsisters are silly and ditzy and don't do much, they're very emotional and they just respond at things instantly. Their mother, on the other hand, her mind is like working constantly and she responds, but it's always in a very aloof, detached manner. And then she knows how to manipulate her daughters and just use them like vicious attack dogs. And she does that. That one particular scene, if you've seen like any clips from the animated film, if you haven't watched it yourself, where the stepsisters are ripping apart the dress that the mice had made for Cinderella. Oh, and that's another thing that was inconsistent. When the mice were making the dress for Cinderella, they gave her this beautiful high collar that it really was. It was a very beautiful design, but then later when they reveal the dress, they've done away with the collar, but we saw them putting it on the dress, so it's just like really frustrating because I actually like the design of the dress that we see the mice as they're making it versus the great reveal. The grand reveal dress is actually a lot simpler than the dress that we see them putting together. And it's honestly, it's just a few details, but it's still very visible and it's very obvious. It's not like they were taking the collar off. We see them hoisting things up to put this collar on the dress and sewing it into place. And then it's not there. Frustrating. Let's see. Honestly, okay, that's about all I have to rant. So I'll just go ahead and get into the ranking. The Cinderella character herself. Sorry, my notes all messed up here. I gave her a 2. I mean, she's nice enough. She doesn't do much, but she is kind. She's an animal lover. So that's an actual trait. She shows a lot of compassion. Her song in the opening of the movie is "A dream is a wish your heart makes when you're asleep." And it's kind of nice. It's sung well. The music is done well in the movie. I'm kind of puzzled by her. Like, it's really hard for me to judge her character because I think there's certain subtle hints to her personality, but it's so subtle it almost seems like vapors. Like, if I read into it, I could definitely like see a lot more depth to this character, but I have to hold myself back because it's like, okay, I need to view the movie for what it's actually presenting. And honestly, it's kind of wishy-washy. So I don't dislike her, but I don't like her either. I see a lot of potential for the character, but like I said, it's just we don't really spend enough time with her and see her do much other than she's working hard. She doesn't complain. That's about it. I mean, she takes care of animals. I mean, she puts them in clothes and she talks to them. Some people might call that a little crazy. Definitely eccentric. Can you imagine her, though, as princess or queen, dressing animals and talking to them? But, okay, moving on. The Prince Charming character, I just gave him a 1. I can't dislike him because he doesn't really do anything, but I don't really like him either. On the other hand, the magical being, which is, of course, the fairy godmother. Boopity Boppity Boo is her big number, and I just give her a 2. She's average. I don't think she's stand out in any way, but she's not terrible. She's a little better than just functional. She does have some personality. She has that grandmotherly care. It's kind of nice how in her first appearance, she just kind of shows up and suddenly Cinderella's face is in her lap, because the fairy godmother appears like where Cinderella is boo-hoo-hooing on a bench. Convenient that she should be boo-hoo-hooing on a bench like she was, so that the fairy godmother's appearance could work out the way it does. Like I said, there's a lot of things, or maybe it was my other take that I said, that there's a lot of things in this movie that's just way too convenient for the story to just move on visually and the way that the filmmakers wanted it to. The villain, like I said, Lady Tremaine is the stepmother, and she is cold and aloof, and she's just kind of the most in-depth character in this whole film. And she's interesting. She's not scary, but maybe she is. Like, she is the kind of person that you wouldn't want to have as a boss. Like, I can kind of imagine, like, some people, if I'd had her in management when I worked fast food or something like that, she would be a scary manager to work for. She is so cold. She's like an evil NT, if you're interested in MBTI, the personality types. Tremaine has like this intuition. She picks up and reads situations so quickly, and she's a thinker, but she's so cold and calculating. She's like an evil NT. And the stepsisters, I give them 2. They're not particularly interesting. They're there. They're functional, but they're emotional. They have an impact on the story. They're like their moms at Tack Dogs. They are very volatile. They're not controlled like she is. One thing I dislike about the movie is, and this is something that's common in a lot of different Cinderella stories, is the stepsisters are shown as ugly, incompetent, stupid, or something along those lines in order to make Cinderella seem like a better character. But I'm sorry, it doesn't really work that way. Yeah, they're emotional and they're volatile, but in some ways they show far more personality than Cinderella does. I don't think it's just a difference of restraint. It's, you know, if we saw more of Cinderella showed more restraint in some ways, that would have been interesting, but it's not. I mean, the most we really get of a character development or insight into Cinderella really is when she's talking to Rufus the dog about, you know, even Lucifer has his good points. And so we see that optimism of she's a kind of person who wants to see the best in people. So that's good. That's something, at least. Then there's the Grand Duke. I like the Grand Duke. I mean, I have to give him a 3 because he's so put upon. In a lot of ways, he's kind of like Cinderella, because the Grand Duke just puts up with so much from the king. And whereas the king is like physically violent and scary versus this Lady Tremaine's cold aloofness, the Grand Duke, he just puts up with everything that the king literally throws at him. And so I really feel sorry for him, but you know, and he's dutiful and he does what needs to be done. And he's just kind of a fun character. The king, on the other hand, I gave him a 0. I just dislike that character. Rewatching this movie, like, I've forgotten what an awful character he is. I think as a kid I thought he was funny, but then again, I fought with my siblings and stuff like that. And we threatened to harm one another all the time. So I guess seeing that in a cartoon, I didn't really take it too seriously. When I was a kid, I just thought it was goofy and funny. But watching it now, it's like, no, the king is an awful person. He's awful in this movie. I really hate that character because he's supposed to be kind of a good guy, but Cinderella is going to go from living under Lady Tremaine's roof to this king's roof. And I know in the sequels, he's shown to be this loving, sweet, wonderful, ooey gooey guy, but that is not the character that is in the first movie. In the first movie, he's an awful, mean, emotional, selfish man. So, that's all I gotta say about that. On a technical level, the story is it's okay. I mean, it follows certain patterns. It follows the Charles Perrault's version of Cinderella, but it doesn't flesh anything out. And for being an 80-something minute long movie, it's like, come on, I've seen shorter movies that fleshed the characters out that didn't have so much filler. So it's very disappointing and frustrating on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, it is average. It goes through the motions. It tells the story. The acting, the voice acting is good. It's beautiful. I have no complaints. It's Disney. The voice acting is above average. The costume designs I just give it a 2. I mean, they're beautiful. I like them. Meh. They're a 2. They're average. There's nothing wrong with them, but they don't. Maybe I should start marking things 1. I try to be nice, but yeah, even I was surprised the low ranking I ultimately end up giving this movie. The music I gave a 3. It's above average for sure. The animation is beautiful. It's a 4. I mean, yeah. I better not say too much, and I can't be too nice because I am putting this movie on trial, so I had to save myself a little something I could say during the trial, but oh well. Alright, and then last but not least, entertainment value. It's a 2. I mean, it was worth watching. It was not painful to watch or anything like that. There were some of the movies that just like, you want to fast forward through certain scenes. Not this movie. This movie is just, you watch it, it's fun. When I was younger, I definitely liked rewatching it more than I do as an adult, but it serves its purpose. It's a family movie that tells a classic tale, and it does it. So, yeah, it does have some entertainment value. The music, the animation, it just, I know Disney has the magic or whatever, so it's good. So, totaling all of that together, it only managed an average of 2.214, which I was really surprised because before I watched it, I was thinking it was probably going to get like 2.7, 2.8, you know, thinking that some of the technical stuff was going to be higher, and I really didn't think I was going to dislike any of the characters as much as I did. Like I said, rewatching it, I was really surprised by how awful the king was. Like, I just did not remember that. Okay, so that's my review. And you can look forward to me being a lot more critical and harsh and just going at it during the trials, which will be coming. Cinderella is going on trial along with the other 2 Disney animated fairy tales that are based off of French fairy tales, Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. I believe that video is due to be posted January 20th. But in the meantime, I will be doing some other. Good night.